Welcome back to another recipe video. Today I'll be walking you through how to make a flawless banana bread. If you love to take breaks from carbs or you're trying to be calorie wise, this recipe is definitely for you, so keep watching. Guys, please at this time, if you haven't subscribed, please hit the subscribe button, like this video and share with your loved ones. The ingredients and the measurements are on this slide. You can save and refer back to it. First, you need almond milk, you need baking powder, you need oats, you need coconut flakes, ripened bananas, you need some honey, and you need eggs. Guys, it doesn't matter if you're using white or brown eggs, any egg would do for this recipe. The first thing would be to mix all the dry ingredients together. For a flour substitute, I'll be using coconut flour, which is a low carb option for generic baking flour. I'm going to mix, like I said, all the dry ingredients together separately from the wet, so I ensure that everything is fully incorporated and I get the best results out of this recipe. So next I'll be going in with rolled oats. So guys, these are regular oats. I just blended them to make them a bit smoother than they usually appear, so you can do that as well. Once I put the rolled oats in, I'm going to proceed to add in other dry ingredients. So the next important step would be to add some baking powder. Guys, it's very important you add a generous amount of baking powder to this recipe because that is what will help your end results come out well risen. You don't want to have a flat out bread at the end. Following this, I'm going to go in with some coconut flakes, which I believe is optional, but I really loved how this turned out in this recipe. So you can omit this step if you don't have coconut flakes. If you do have them, to be very nice to incorporate it into this recipe. The next step would be to mix the wet ingredients together. I'll be starting off with my bananas. So I'm mashing my overripened bananas with a fork, and this is what it looks like. Guys, it's important to use overripened bananas in this recipe because it adds that extra sweetness, especially because we are not using white granulated sugar in this recipe. Going to proceed to cracking my eggs now. I'm going to add every other wet ingredient into this jar and I'm going to mix up. Guys, the vanilla extract step is very optional. If you do not have vanilla extract at home, don't freak out, you still get an amazing banana bread using this recipe because I deem this an optional ingredient. I've baked so many breads without it and I still got a good result. So next we'll be adding in the honey. So the honey would be the artificial source of sweetness in this recipe. Guys, ensure that you are using organic honey because some honeys in the shelves in the store today do have a lot of sugar in it. So if you have to go to the farm to get yours, that might be a better option. So for the milk, I'm using almond milk because I have lactose allergies. So if you do have lactose allergies, just ensure that you're using the lactose free option for milk, or if you're allergic to like nuts, you can use coconut milk or you can use soy milk for this step. So I'm just going to proceed to mixing properly and then I'll show you guys how I incorporate everything together. So this is the final step, which is incorporation. So I'm going to be putting my wet ingredients into my dry ingredients, and I realized that my bowl was too small here, so I swapped it. So I'm going to mix in one direction like so because it's very important that you do this step because it helps you mix all the powder into the wet. And whilst doing this, guys, ensure that you're scooping from under up so that you don't have any lumps of flour in between your mix, and also you avoid over mixing. Guys, it's important not to over mix because you get a tough result if you over mix this recipe. So I'm just going to pour my batter into a pan which I've pre-glazed. If you have parchment paper, you can use it as opposed glazing your pans. So this topping step is optional. I am going in with regular oats I had a little bit of granola, so I just mixed it up. Guys, if you don't like the whole oats and granola effect, you can omit this step and just bake your banana bread as is. So this is exactly what my mix looks like with the topping, and I'm just going to throw this into an oven preheated at 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and I'm going to be baking for about 45 minutes, watching this very closely to ensure that my bread does not burn, because this is a different recipe from the generic. So at this point my bread was a little bit big. I'm just checking if the insides are cooked with a prong. Guys, if your insides of your bread are not cooked and the top looks cooked, it's important to follow the next step, which I'll be showing you shortly. What I usually do would be to put tin foil over the pan, wrap it tightly, and I continue baking for a few minutes while checking more. This would ensure that your top of your bread does not over dry and ensure that the inside of the bread cooks quickly. This is my end result, guys. I love my banana bread browned up. This is how mine came out. You can go ahead and try this recipe, but one thing I would like to note is if you do try this recipe and you have a regular bread pan, you can go ahead and pour the entire mix per the measurement I showed on the first slide into one pan, and that would work. So this is what my bread looks like up close. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video.